The minority did not call any witnesses for today's hearing. They have chosen to ignore the hearing as they chose to ignore President Biden's mental decline of some previous statements from the Biden administration officials and Democrat Party officials telling us not to believe our lying eyes.
Incredibly sharp, incredibly probing, incredible command of the details.
He is sharp. He is on top of things.
Democrats thought skipping the hearing would bury the truth, but Eric Schmitt buried them instead. With one video, he turned years of scripted praise for Biden into a demolition reel of denial. Now the cover-up is unraveling in real time, and the terrifying question is this: who's really been running the country?
His mental acuity is great. It's fine. It's as good as it's been over the years. He's fine. All this right-wing propaganda that his mental acuity has declined is wrong.
For months, Biden's decline has been on display. The stumbles, the blank stares, the rambling moments his staff scramble to explain. Everyone sees it, but in D.C., it's treated like a secret nobody's allowed to say out loud.
I can testify because I've been working very closely with this president for the past 2 years. I've been knowing him for 30 years. And I'm telling you, this guy's tough, he's smart, he's on his game.
So when the Senate Judiciary held a hearing on Biden's mental fitness, Democrats had their chance to prove the critics wrong. Instead, every chair on their side was empty. The same people who spent years calling Biden sharp and on his game vanished when it was time to put proof on the table. And Eric Schmitt didn't waste a second ripping them for it. He hit them with the truth everyone else is afraid to say. Democrats aren't just ignoring Biden's decline, they're ignoring reality itself.
Democrat Party officials telling us not to believe our lying eyes. We can play the video.
Does the president have the stamina, physically and mentally, do you think, to continue on even after 2024?
Don, you're asking me this question. Oh my gosh, he's the president of the United States. You know, I can't even keep up with it.
The most difficult part about a meeting with President Biden is preparing for it, because he is sharp, intensely probing, and detail-oriented and focused.
And then Schmitt dropped the hammer, not with words, but with a video, and the effect was brutal. One after another, top Democrats lined up to insist Biden was perfectly sharp, perfectly capable, a performance so polished it felt less like testimony and more like propaganda.
The president is focused. He's detail-oriented. He's always thinking about the big picture.
He is engaging. He is capable. He has an incredible record as president.
And here's the reality. Those same officials weren't describing the man the public has been watching stumble through press conferences and freeze mid-sentence. They were building a shield, not for Biden, but for themselves. Because if Biden wasn't truly running the show, then every glowing word they fed the cameras was part of a cover-up.
And I'm often with him on foreign trips. He's at the top of his game.
So he has a vision, he has knowledge, he has judgment, he has a strategic thinking.
I met with the president, 5 or 6 weeks ago, and he seemed fine to me.
The whiplash in their story is impossible to ignore. First, Biden was the fastest man in the room, sharper than his staff, impossible to keep up with. Then, when decline became undeniable, the script flipped overnight. Suddenly, weakness was wisdom, stumbles were folksy, and confusion was spun as humility. That wasn't defense, that was desperation, bending reality to match whatever version of Biden they needed at the time.
I have complete confidence in the president. I have watched him expertly guide meetings of staff and cabinet members. I could not have more confidence in the president.
That's why the montage hit so hard. It didn't expose Biden. Everyone already knows what decline looks like. It exposed the people around him, the insiders who gaslit the country while holding the power behind the curtain. He let Democrats convict themselves with their own words.
I would just tell you that I meet frequently with the president, and every single time I meet with him, he is just fine.
But he is, again, knowledgeable, wise.
Incredibly sharp, incredibly probing, incredible command of the detail.
What made it even darker was the motive behind all this. Democrats weren't propping up Biden out of loyalty. They were propping him up to cling to power.
I have seen a lot of 72-year-olds not as capable as this 80-year-old.
It is hard for us to keep up with this president.
Think about what that really means. An entire party looked straight at the American people and tried to rebrand decline as leadership. That's not loyalty, that's manipulation, using a struggling man as political cover while they kept their grip on power.
There is nothing to these challenges, these suggestions that somehow he's not sharp and he's not capable.
We see Joe Biden up close. We know how attuned he is to the issue.
And you're going to see how smart he is and the experience he has.
And the worst part? It wasn't done to protect Biden. It was done to protect their grip on Washington. Schmitt's hearing ripped away the illusion and showed the raw truth. Biden wasn't being defended. He was being used.
I say his age is an asset.
Aha! He's wise.
Yes, he's wise. He has wisdom. He has experience.
And his experience, because of his age and his wisdom, has been invaluable to this country.
A lot of countries, people who've been in office a longer period of time are praised for their wisdom.
If the video exposed the lies, the investigations exposed the rot. It wasn't just what Democrats said. It was how the White House operated behind the scenes.
They had Karine Jean-Pierre appear before the Oversight Committee to testify. According to reports, she admitted that, quote, Biden is not the same speaker as when she first met him. And she also noted, quote, information regarding his health and mental acuity was handled exclusively at the senior level.
Karine Jean-Pierre admitted Biden isn't the same man she first met, and Ian Sams let slip he only spoke with the president twice in 2 years. Twice in 2 years. That's not access to a leader. That's a wall built around him. And when Biden's own doctor was subpoenaed, he didn't clear the air. He pled the fifth. Ask yourself, if Biden's health was as strong as his allies claim, why would his physician hide behind silence?
That Biden may not have approved all the uses of the auto pen, particularly with the pardons issued during the last couple of months of his term.
That's where the auto pen comes in, a mechanical signature standing in for the president himself. If orders, pardons, or executive actions were pushed through without Biden's knowledge, that isn't governance, it's forgery in plain sight.
Why would you do that? Because you understand, we just talked about Ukraine. You understand you're fueling Vladimir Putin's war machine because they got to get their gas from him, you know. And he looks at me, stunned with this, and he said, I didn't do that. And I said, Mr. President, yes, you did. It was an executive order, 3 weeks ago. And he goes, no, I didn't do that. And he's arguing with me. I said, Mr. President, respectfully, could I go out here and ask your secretary to print it out? We'll read it together. You definitely did that. And he goes, oh, you talk about natural gas.
And if there was still any doubt about who's really calling the shots, the LNG story blew it wide open. Speaker Mike Johnson asked Biden directly about the executive order that paused liquefied natural gas exports, a decision that rattled U.S. allies, shifted global markets, and threatened American energy jobs. Biden's response? I didn't do that. This wasn't just Biden misspeaking. It was something far more serious. That's a sitting president denying knowledge of his own executive order. Let's be clear, an executive order is not some memo. It's a binding decision that reshapes policy at home and abroad. For a president to disown it means one of two things. Either he didn't understand the question, or someone else signed off without him. Both are catastrophic.
This is not just a small point. That signature issuing a pardon for someone who'd been convicted of a crime, or in the case of Joe Biden, these preemptive pardons, which are sort of unprecedented, is a big deal. And I think that's part of the reason why we're here today.
And here's where it gets darker. If it was the auto pen, if a mechanical signature was attached to a policy Biden never authorized, that's not just sloppy governance, that's a constitutional crisis. It means unelected staffers could be steering U.S. foreign policy under the president's name. Allies making billion-dollar energy decisions with us may have been negotiating with a pen, not a president. That's why Schmitt's hearing hit so hard. Because the LNG exchange wasn't about one order. It symbolized a government running on autopilot where the man in the Oval Office might not even be the final voice. And if that's true, then the question isn't just who's running the country, it's scarier. Has anyone been in charge at all?
They should think both about adapting the impeachment process to inability, which, as I say, right now it's not clear it's properly used in those situations, or creating yet some other political process to deal with presidential inability if lawmakers think that the political process that's in Sections 3 and 4 of the 25th Amendment is inadequate. The last thing I'll say, just as a policy matter, and this is not speaking on the legal question.
And let's not forget the people behind the curtain. Experts at the hearing said it plain. Staffers and advisors who hid Biden's incapacity should be held accountable. Because if insiders were running the presidency under his name, then this wasn't just Biden's failure. It was a coordinated abuse of power by the very people sworn to serve the country.
Any decision about presidential inability remain something that's decided by politically accountable people, that is treated as a political decision. It can't just be a technocratic decision.
And while all this was happening in plain sight, the media played accomplice. Trump's mental fitness was questioned daily, often without evidence, yet Biden's issues were treated like forbidden territory.
The Washington Post, CNN, NBC, without evidence, to use their phrase, went after President Trump's physical and mental acuity, and yet failed to ask similar questions of the White House press office. Publicly, they failed to cover the stories. I don't think that there's a winner. I think they're all losers.
Sean Spicer told the hearing bluntly, the press wasn't curious, they were complicit. The proof is in Jake Tapper, scolding Lara Trump in 2020 for even raising Biden's decline, then later admitting in his own book that the concerns were real. The press didn't just miss the story, they buried it.
Draw public attention to this problem, and so give presidents an incentive to take steps that will reassure the people that they are sound and able to perform their functions.
And here's the nightmare scenario nobody wants to talk about. What if Biden wasn't the only one? Experts warned Congress has no real plan if both the president and vice president are incapacitated at the same time. Imagine a terror attack, a sudden crisis, and no clear line of command, Washington scrambling while the world burns. That's not just dysfunction, that's a national security time bomb ticking right under our feet.